Hey guys, I'm Ava and let's talk about Pokemon. So today we're going to be talking about the newest set, which is of course Lost Origin. I think a lot of people were pretty disappointed with the pull rates for this set, not surprisingly, because it is very, very difficult to pull the alternate arts in this set. That is undeniable. It seems like though the trainer gallery has typical pull rates. So with this in mind, what does that really mean for this set? Is it worth opening, or are you guaranteed to lose a bunch of money on this? This set has actually performed very differently than other new sets that we've looked at in a similar way. So I want to talk about it right away because it's really interesting to look at. First off, looking at this spreadsheet, you can see we have all these prices here. These are the live prices from TCG Player. We can refresh this connection just to double check to make sure these are the most accurate prices, and you can see that they indeed are. This Giratina V Alt-Art is going for almost $250, which is a lot of money. And interestingly, when I did this originally a couple days ago, it was only at $200. Usually we see prices for these cards start to drop very quickly because supply is increasing. The fact that this price is continuing to go up could mean there's a buyout, but you also are seeing it for other cards across the set. So what that tells me is that these pull rates for these alt-arts are so much lower than people expected. Even the Aerodactyl was going for $100 a couple days ago. So seeing that price go up so much suggests that these pull rates are a lot lower than people expected, which is why prices are going up, because they're not as easy to get as people thought they would be. And that's just interesting because, as I said, that's very atypical. So it seems that the pull rates here are about 1 in 400 packs. So that's around 1 per 10 booster boxes, a little less actually, maybe like 0.9 alternate arts per booster box. If you're wondering where these pull rates came from, it came from a Reddit post, which I'm just going to pop up on the screen. Shout out to the creator of that post. It is 5,520 packs as the sample size, which is the largest I could find online for this set. I did cross-reference it though with other people who were opening smaller amounts of packs just to make sure they were in line. But of course, we want to go with the largest sample size possible to make this the most reliable. Interestingly, it seems like these alternate arts aren't distributed very evenly, just from what I've read online. Some people won't pull any, and then others are pulling maybe 2 in 1 box. And I think this just kind of shows that there's maybe some issue with the print run here, because I doubt they would deliberately choose to make the print run of alternate arts maybe like 1/10 of what it typically is, which hopefully they fix in subsequent print runs. Otherwise, I can see these cards staying expensive for a very long time, because theoretically, if these are, you know, maybe not quite 10 times harder to pull, but even if they're 5 times harder to pull than your typical alternate art, you're gonna expect that they should be more expensive. So looking at the main set, unsurprisingly, the 5 most expensive cards are of course going to be the alternate arts, as well as the gold rare Giratina. The 212 secret rare is the gold rare one, and then there is also a rainbow rare one, which is not quite as expensive. And you can see that the pull rates for these are quite low. Out of the 5,520 for the alternate arts, 2 of them were pulled 3 times each in the sample that I looked at, and then another 2 were pulled 4 times each. And then the Giratina V-Star was pulled 8 times. So it seems like the pull rates for the gold rares and the rainbow rares are similar in this set. And looking at our pull rates, you can see that across the board, a lot of these are consistent with previous sets. Really, the outlier here is the alternate art, and that is what has made people perceive the set as having really bad pull rates, but actually, across other things, it seems like they are fairly typical. However, is that going to have a big impact on the value of the set? So what I like to do with these spreadsheets is kind of find an expected value for a box, which is if I open up, say, 1,000 boxes, on average, this is about the amount that they would be worth. So we're going to talk more about what that actually is later. But the alternate arts aren't necessarily going to add a lot of value to the average box because the pull rates are so low, right? So it's not really making up a big chunk of the expected value in a set like this, where there are only 4 and they're very hard to pull. But for something like Evolving Skies, it's a very top-heavy set. So those big hitter cards are going to comprise a lot of the value. But newer sets like Brilliant Stars and Lost Origin have the trainer gallery, which is going to help them have a more well-rounded box on average. Because on average, about 12.5% of the time you're going to get a trainer gallery card. And this has actually been pretty consistent throughout all the different boxes that I have looked at. It is basically exactly the same in Lost Origin as it was for the previous set we did this for. So it's really cool to see that that is consistent and reliable. And also the percentages of which ones you're gonna get are also consistent. So about 2/3 of the time when you get a trainer gallery card, it's gonna be one of those non-V type of cards or the ones that aren't the trainers. So those ones are easier to pull, which is of course why they are cheaper. You can see here that the bottom of the list of the trainer gallery cards is dominated with those cards that have the trainer gallery 1 through 11, because for this set that's going to be those more common ones, and then 12 and up are the ones that are going to be the Vs and the trainers. So it's nice to see that you actually have a fairly reliable chance of getting that. So even those ones you might expect to be a little rare, the Pikachu VMAX and the Mew VMAX, for example, are actually fairly consistent with what we have seen for the other ones in the set. So they're not that much harder to pull. So that's really nice to see. And this is a really, really solid trainer gallery. You can see the Pikachu VMAX is worth $44, which is just so much. This Charizard is the third card, so it's actually fairly common and it's still worth $8, which is really nice, knowing that it is a fairly easy card to pull. So I really do like the trainer gallery in this set. I think overall, if you take into account everything, despite the fact that these alt arts are basically non-existent, like most likely when you open a box, you're not gonna pull one just because of the pull rates that we talked about. Doesn't mean you're gonna lose a lot of money on the box necessarily. And also there are a decent amount of cards in the set that are worth over $10. Specifically, there are 23 of them, which I think is always interesting to note. Again, some of these are gonna be from the trainer gallery, but a lot of these are also just the regular cards in the set as well. That said, a good amount of them are going to be those secret rares, which does make it a bit more difficult to kind of hit that high dollar value on the set. It's gonna be difficult to make a major profit off of this unless you are pulling the Giratina, the Aerodactyl, or maybe another alternate art, and then some of the higher end trainer gallery cards like the Pikachu V or the Pikachu V Max. And then in terms of the total value of how much you'd really have to pay to get this entire set, it's gonna run you about $1,200, which really isn't that much. But when you imagine actually trying to open up this entire set, just for the thought experiment. So $1,200, that's about 12 booster boxes, maybe even just 11. But for the Giratina alone, that was 3 out of 5,520 packs. You would have to open so many booster boxes just to get that, well over 10 just to get that. And on average, you're probably gonna get 1 secret rare per box, and there are so many secret rares in the set that it is just not that realistic to expect to be able to open this for less than that. There's just no way it's happening. So that's just another reminder of why, you know, it's pretty much always better to just buy singles. Obviously, it is really fun to open cards and, you know, open them once in a while, but it is not the way you should be trying to master set something like this, especially this set, because we know that the pull rates for the alternate arts are so difficult. It seems like they are leaning more away from those maybe, which we've talked a bit about what's gonna happen in Scarlet and Violet. Maybe they aren't gonna have alternate arts as much. We only have 4 in this set and they're difficult to pull, whereas Evolving Skies had so many alternate arts. They weren't always necessarily super easy to pull, at least for me, but it does seem like they are shying a bit away from those. We do know that there are going to be some in the next set, Silver Tempest, as well, but it remains to be seen what will happen in Scarlet and Violet. Fingers crossed that they still have alternate arts, but we don't know. I'm sure that they will continue to exist in some capacity in the trading card game in general, because they existed before this, but they really came to prominence in the Sword and Shield era. So let's talk a little bit more about whether or not, you know, maybe this box is worth opening up despite the fact that the alternate arts are so difficult to pull. The market price of the box is right around $107 or $108 as of filming this video. And you can see that your average value, when you open up 36 packs, you can go in and change this. If you want, you can join my Patreon and I will have a link to download this spreadsheet so that you can do whatever you want with it. You can change any of the numbers in blue, but your expected value is gonna be $100 on the dot, which is very, very satisfying. So that is not gonna get you there, but you also have the code cards, and combined, you're gonna get $107. And that's exactly break even, which, you know, at first glance isn't so bad, but of course you're gonna have to pay fees on top of this. And really, we need to be comparing this to previous sets because this set just came out. This is when the cards should be worth the most. And as I said, the prices have increased on them. Whether or not they'll continue to go up, I don't know, and that's really just for those alternate arts. The rest of the cards have been pretty much flat throughout, so the ones that are going up in value also aren't making up that much of the value of the box. They're contributing about $10, and most likely you're not going to get one, so you could subtract that, maybe say it's around $97 is what you could realistically expect. So really we should compare this to previous sets when they just came up to see how it really is performing, because this I think is underwhelming. So to get a better picture of how these prices really compare, I think it's only fair to take a look at the previous set, which was Astral Radiance. I made a whole video about this, but TLDR, this box had a positive EV when it came out by 23%. You can see that the market price of the box was $108 as well, but with code cards it was going for $133, which is a lot more than what we're seeing here. It had a plus EV of 23%. Again, I'm not saying that it was worth opening at the time either, but it just kind of goes to show how much this set really is underperforming. And it's not like the bulk of the value from this set came from those alternate arts either way. This set did have a lot of other cards that people did want in it, and I would say that it was a bit more of a well-rounded set. You can see that the number of cards it had that were over $10 was actually 39, and this wasn't like a super hyped set either way. It's not like it was as popular as Brilliant Stars or Evolving Skies, but the fact that Lost Origin is still below this, I think goes to show that it is a bit lackluster compared to others, despite having a much more expensive card in it. For perspective, the Giratina V alternate art is more than 3 times more expensive than the most expensive card at the time of filming this in this set, which was the Dialga. Now the Machamp has gotten a lot more expensive, but this happened before. Most likely there was some sort of buyout or something that caused the price of that to spike so much in such a short period of time. Literally the span of hours, the price of the card like doubled, I remember it. But it seems like Lost Origin just doesn't have that same kind of magic. So then for Lost Origin, why is it worth so much less when the EV of the alternate arts is the same? Again, it doesn't have as many cards that are over that $10 mark, 25, whatever dollar amount you want to say. It just doesn't have that many cards that are bringing in value. A lot of the value really is going to come from those $10 to $20 cards, which this just has less of. So I think a lot of people are really upset over the alternate arts in this set, which is very valid, and I would be really frustrated too. But part of why it's also maybe not as good of a set is just it's less good overall, and it has less to do with the pull rates on these top end cards rather than an overall picture, which I think a lot of people haven't been talking about as much because you don't see that story as much until you actually go through, break out all the pull rates, find the expected value, and see where that value is coming from within the set. I think this set is really interesting to look at because it shows that although you can have a couple really expensive cards at the top end, and also although the pull rates of those aren't that good, that's not necessarily why the set maybe isn't as worth opening. It's not just because of those alternate arts. Obviously that makes it less exciting when you know you're not going to get anything like that, but also it's just less well-rounded overall. Hopefully this video was interesting. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it, if you like these types of spreadsheet videos. If you want this spreadsheet to yourself to see how these prices change in the future, you can download this spreadsheet on my Patreon. You know, these do take me a while to make, so I would really love if you guys could support me on there. You can update them, you can change the pull rates. It's really customizable and really cool. So if you guys enjoyed this, feel free to support me on Patreon, as I said, or if you don't have a lot of money to spare, you can always just buy through my eBay or Amazon affiliate links because I do get a small percentage of that. Those are in the description. But thank you guys all so much for watching, in particular, Jake, Corey, Chris, Alex, and Edge. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.